Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Cleveland Stage Door. My name is Jimmy Davis, and we have a fun conversation for y'all this week. We are talking with comedian Greg Proops from the iconic show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? We talk about his 30-year tenure on the show between the British version and the U.S. version. We talk about his time as Bob the Builder and what to expect on Who's Live Anyway, coming to Playoff Square this weekend. Let's dive into it. Joining me now is Greg from Whose Line Is It Anyway and Who's Live Anyway. Greg, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm good, Jimmy. How are you?
I am doing great. You are coming to Cleveland here next week. That's very exciting at KeyBank State Theater. Tell me, what is the difference between the people who watch a show and what's going to be happening at KeyBank next week?
Well, I mean, you're watching the show on TV is great fun, but of course you're separated by a pane of glass, or you're watching on your computer or your phone or on your telly. And when you're live, it's really much more interactive. We bring people on stage and we mess with them. And so if you come, you should wear something you like because everyone's going to see you. Okay. And we dress up. What can I tell you? We dress up. And we're very energetic. We hit the stage running and we really try to sing and dance and fall on our ass for an hour and a half and make you forget about the shit that's going on in the world.
Yes, I love that. I love that. What is your favorite, what's the favorite game to play for on the live stage?
On the live stage?
Yeah.
We do a game called First Date where we bring a couple out of the audience and we talk to them and we ask them about how they met in their first date. And then we improvise it. And those are usually really funny. I'm often a very sexually active woman in those bits. And so it's very fun for me. And that one I think really goes over well with the audience because they know we're improvising right then and there.
That's awesome. So tell me, you've been on Whose Line for a long time. If I did the math, it's about 27-ish years now, right?
I would say over 30 years. 1989 was my first year.
Oh wow! So tell me, what is you joined first in the British Whose Line, and then you joined with the U.S. What do you think the biggest difference between the British show and then the U.S. show was?
Well, we got paid a lot more when it was on ABC, but there was a little more air in the English show. A minute in those days, a half hour in England was 22 minutes, 24 minutes, I think. And then a half hour in the States was 22 and a half. Oh, wow. So we had that extra 2 or 3 minutes so we could do things like musicals and stuff like that, which we never did on the American program. We only did greatest hits. But if you watch the old English one, you'll see me and Josie, Mike, Tony, all of them get up and do an actual musical that lasts 5 minutes long.
Really?
And we just never do that on the American one. That, I think, and of course the energy of the English players. Our Tony Slattery, who passed away this year, was on the English version, and he brought a very naughty energy to the show. Our John Sessions, who passed away 2 years ago, brought a very intellectual motif to the show. My old buddy Mick Shane was on the English version, and he was never really on the American version. And Mike and I were really good friends in college, and we were in an improv group together. So there was a different energy, I think, on the English show because the English people weren't as crazy as we were. We were more energetic and we high-fived and touched each other and stuff like that. And they were way more staid. So there was sort of that clash of cultures.
Yeah.
And then by the time I got to the American one, it was way more hoot and holler American kind of situation.
Absolutely. Is there a performer, living or dead, that you wish you could have done the show with?
Well, I didn't do the Robin Williams show, but I feel like my other greatest improviser that I ever knew was Jonathan Winters, the comedian. And he would have been great on the show. The problem with Jonathan Winters and Robin Williams being on Whose Line is it constricts them. Frankly, they're better improvisers than that. And the comprehensive universe of their improv would have been, I think, almost funneled down and TV-sized. You know, the thing about Robin was he was this insane force on stage. And when you played with him on stage, he'd get you in a headlock, and he was really strong and really sweaty, and you'd be up against his hair and everything, and there's no room for that on TV. You know what I mean? TV is, as they said in the 60s, a cool medium. We've cooled everything down, and live performing is a hot medium. So, but having said that, also Peter Cook did the show once in England, and Peter Cook was a genius who was in a comedy duo with Dudley Moore called Cook and Moore, and before that he was in a comedy group called Beyond the Fringe with Dr. Jonathan Miller and kittens, I've just blanked on the other fellow's name. Anyway, they're both still alive, Jonathan Miller and, oh my God, I blanked on it. Well, you look it up in Beyond the Fringe. Anyway, they were a very famous comedy group in England. And Peter Cook was kind of uncontrollable. And they told him not to drink before the show, and he did anyway. So he's the only person that's ever smoked on the show. Wow. He actually lit a cigarette while we were taping and did the show.
Wow.
So I wished I'd done it with him because I worship him. And you can go back and look up Peter Cook and see how unbelievably devious he is. He's really an unbelievable arch intellectual, and at the same time, absolutely breaking every rule.
Absolutely, and I've heard more and more now. I've talked to more comedians recently. Is it harder to do improv and comedy today than it was 10 or 15 years ago for you guys?
No, not at all. I think the audience really, really loves it now. Everybody knows who we are. And the people that come to the show watch us on YouTube or whatever. And they're really up for it. They're up for what's going to happen in the show.
And you guys get great numbers still. It's crazy. Like
we sell a lot of tickets, man. Part of it is we're not a stand-up show. So I do stand-up. So when I do my stand-up, you're going to get my opinion the whole time. And more. But with an improv show, I can't really wedge my opinion into every single bit, and it's not my show. I'm sharing the stage. I'm in a band. So when you're in a band, you have to be in a band. You have to play the songs and get along with everybody. And sort of, it's a different motif, So I don't think it's any more difficult, no. As far as stand-up comedy goes, and what I think you're trying to insinuate, is or infer or imply, whatever the word is.
Yeah.
No, I'm not bound by any woke motif or any of that jazz. In my opinion, the comics that complain about not being able to do what they really want to do are aching to call people terrible names and haven't any taste or style. So with me, it's really a matter of taste. If you haven't the manners to not make fun of people who are disabled or homosexual, then you really oughtn't be a comic. You should be a Republican senator.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So let me ask you, oh man, I just lost my question. Give me 1 second.
Go on, Jimmy.
Oh, I know it now. I'll cut all that.
Take your time, mate.
So let me ask you this. What is the plan for the show on TV? Are you guys coming back this year?
Oh, I shouldn't think so. No, I think it might be dead. We shot 2 years ago. We had another season last year, which I think was our 11th or 12th on the CW, which nobody knows because the CW never did any promo. We've literally been on the CW for over a decade. We're on it way longer than we were on ABC, and we were on it way longer than we were on in Britain. We were on 10 years in Britain. 4 years on ABC, 2 years on ABC Family, which is now Freeform, a couple years on BBC America, and then at least 10 or 12 years on CW. Jeepers creepers. I was kind of hoping someone would pick it up because it's really cost effective, and we're all still alive, like the original Star Trek cast. At one point, you could still bring us all in there because we're all there. But no, I don't think it's going to be a TV show anymore. You'll have to watch it on YouTube and whatnot. I mean, Wayne does a two-hander with John Mangum. John Mangum's sitting in with us, I think, coming up. We had Tim Meadows sit in with us last tour, Naima Funk, Gary Anthony Williams, Dave Foley and Chip Beston are sitting in with us coming up too. So we have a bigger family now. Drew sat in with us in San Diego. We have a bigger family now. Because Ryan's been.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, well, people get gigs, so we have to fill in for them, and so we've been able to really have some great people come in. I think we've got Kate Flannery coming up at the end of this tour, not in Cleveland, but after that.
I was going to ask, speaking of Cleveland and Drew, he has a tie to Cleveland. Is there any ever a chance when you come back to Cleveland that we could have a surprise Drew appearance?
I know everybody in Cleveland asked me that. I don't think so. I would love to say yes, he's going to show up, but he's not going to. He's really busy with Price is Right, and he sits in with us when he can, basically. Like, he's had him with us about 3 weeks ago in San Diego. Maybe I say 3 weeks. It's really probably a month now. We're on the road so bloody much I can't remember where I am. So when he can sit in with us, usually I like call him or text him and just say, do you want to do this show? And he goes, yeah. So it's really that informal. So no one's asked him about Cleveland. And my guess is he'll have to be working because I think they shoot Price like 3 days a week. So he can't really split.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, we haven't seen Drew in a hot minute here. So
no, and he's still loyal. He's still very much Cleveland dude. What can I tell you? He's a really lovely guy, and he really reflects well on Cleveland. Also, I've watched him, change over the years. He was always a lovely guy and really generous, but he's become even more open-minded and eclectic as the years go by.
So one thing I learned while researching, I didn't realize you were on Bob the Builder for a long time.
I was Bob for 5 years. Yeah, I was Bob for about 5 years in the early 2000s.
So how did you land that?
Well, I had an agent in England, and they brought me in because the company that was producing the show at the time wanted what they call a North American. North America to the English is Canada and America and the U.S., or as we know it, the 51st state. And so I went into a studio in Soho in London, and I did all these funny voices. And then the woman came over the loudspeaker and said to me, would you mind doing it in your own voice, please? And I said, are you insinuating that I have a funny cartoon voice? And so I did it in my voice, and that's the voice you hear. So I would go, Jimmy, well done, you reused and recycled. And they gave me the gig right there, which has never, ever, ever happened to me. I walked out of the studio and into the next studio, and the woman who was running the production company said, would you like to be Bob the Builder? And I said, hell yeah, I would. And I walked out of the studio, and I phoned my agent, and I said, call them back this second before they change their mind. So they actually offered me the gig right then and there. And then horribly, after about 4 years, they sold the company to another bigger company, which is what happens to everything now. And I didn't have the gig anymore.
Wow.
And I loved the gig. They used to fly me to England. We'd have curry and whatnot. It was great.
Wow. How did you have to shift gears between doing improv and to doing a beloved children's character?
Oh, it was just great fun. Our producer, Pete, was such a beautiful guy. And we would eat lunch together and have Chinese food or whatever and just talk about music and jazz and all the shit that we like. We talk about Steely Dan and, the band, whatnot. Okay. And it was just great fun, every minute of it. I was dubbing over. All the cartoons were already done, and so they were dubbing them for this market, our market. And it was on, I guess, PBS in those days. And so they were fully realized cartoons. It wasn't animatics or drawings. They had already been fully animated and fully voiced with English people. And so they brought in all these Americans and Canadians, and we revoiced everything.
Wow. That's wild.
So I would tell them, we don't call water buckets butts. We call them buckets. Like a water bucket, in their sense, is a butt, a water butt. And they would say bits instead of parts. And a trailer is a caravan in England. So I would say, I can't say to the American audience, I'm getting in my caravan. I have to say I'm getting my trailer. And they always drank tea. And so I would say, why don't we make that coffee? Because Americans don't generally say to each other, let's have a cup of tea. They say, let's have a cup of coffee. So those are the kind of things I would throw in when we were recording And they would let me do it, because they knew that it was true. If I say, what a frightfully awful day, I've got to get in my caravan and have some tea, that's not going to play to the American audience. It's going to seem like British. So they were trying to make it fully American. So,
No, that makes completely sense. Did they have
yeah.
to like reanimate it at all to like
Oh, no,
adjust
no,
the
no.
mouth? No.
We just bowl
Okay.
through, as they say in
Okay.
England. We would.
Got it. Got it. I wasn't sure if it was that technical or not, so that makes
Right.
sense. So to wrap it up, what is one piece of advice you would give to someone trying to break into comedy?
Oh, curtains. Well, there's nothing like the real thing, in my opinion. I'm old school. So there's a lot of people who break through by doing videos on YouTube, and I think you should do that, totally. YouTube videos, TikTok videos, whatever it is. But one thing you really, really want to work on when you're starting is material. The writing of the material, the honing of the material, and the performing of the material in front of an audience, a live audience, because a phone is not a real measure of how funny you are. You can be real funny on the phone, and then you get in front of people and they sit there and stare at you. So the only way to really, truly measure your ability and agility as a comedian is to get, as Harrison Ford says in the first Star Wars, good against remotes is one thing, good against the living is another. So you better be good. That means going to a club at least 2 or 3 times a week, if not more, and working for no money for years. And then, as we say in comedy, you've got to find your voice. What's your voice? At the beginning, you're going to talk about stupid things that don't matter to anyone, but it's the first things you've thought of. And as time goes on, 5, 7 years goes on, and you perform in front of lots of people, and you start to get paid, and you start to invest in being a comedian, your life and your livelihood, then you will find that you're going to start to talk about things that are more important to you. And that's what your voice is. Bill Hicks was a genius comedian who passed away 20 years ago, even more. He passed away in the 90s. And Bill Hicks said, less comedy and more me. And that means, like, if you watch John Mulaney or Chelsea Handler or Wanda Sykes or Margaret Cho, they're talking about themselves and how they feel and what they think and who they are. They still talk about stuff, but the essence of it is them. And that's what real comedy is all about. Yes, there's a million kinds of comedy. There's the people who do one-liners. There's the people who do silliness. There's people who do song parodies. I got it. But for me, it all starts at the base of Richard Pryor, George Carlin, Bill Hicks, Lily Tomlin. You really want to reach down deep and talk about something that's important. 2 comics that I loved were Joan Rivers and Robin Williams, and they were absolutely different comedians. Robin was extemporaneous with instant recall. So he would do the San Francisco style that I subscribe to because I'm from San Francisco, which is a mixture of intellectualism, sub-references that not everybody gets, and dick jokes and vaudeville. So you do all those things at once. Comedy, funny voices. You're talking about politics. You're talking about sociology. You're talking about history, feminism, all those things, but with funny voices so that it's sugar-coated. And then there was Joan Rivers, who was acid, acrid. Here's a Joan Rivers joke that she told me. I wrote a letter to Hitler when I was a little girl, and I said, there's a couple in Teaneck, Jersey you should look in on. Now, that joke is unbelievably funny, and you're not laughing, but it's really a funny joke, and it's really morbid and quite horrible. But she had the temerity. And here's a tip you're asking me about if you're beginning. Joan Rivers was 81, maybe, when she passed. And I knew Joan. The night before she died, she had done a set in New York. And every time she did a set, Jimmy, she recorded it and listened to it back and took notes.
Oh, wow.
So it's not something you quit doing. You know what I'm saying? This is a vocation. It's a profession and it's a vocation. And in order to perform it well, you have to devote yourself to it. There's none of this bullshit like, oh, I can do it because it's fun and shit. If you're going to do that, just go get high and, whatever, play video games. Fun is one matter. The fun of stand-up is the richness that you can find when you connect with the audience. And you'll never connect with them if they think you're being bullshit. You have to be yourself. You have to develop a voice. You have to have a point of view. No one wants to hear about how you feel about masturbating. They really don't. They really, really don't want to hear about it. I assure you of this. Believe me, I spent a lot of time on stage, and they don't want to hear about it. It's the kind of shit guys think of when they're 24 years old, So you really need to move past that shit. And so I'm always aware of, like, when I see comedians, what stage they're at. I'm 65, so I'm at a advanced senility. And I'm also at a stage where I'm really confident with who I am and what I'm doing. So I don't have to think about it. And, what I think about is what I want to talk about and how I want to deliver that and how I can make it better and more palatable so that the audience doesn't freak the fuck out.
I love that. That's so great.
Yeah.
That's such great advice. Greg, thank you so much.
That was a lot of advice. But
yes.
There's nothing that substitutes stage time. You've got to get up on stage. You've got to. I assure you, all the comics that you love, that you watch, no matter who they are, if you see them on YouTube or Netflix or whatever the fuck it is, they've spent a million years on stage. And that set that they're doing that you're watching, they've been over that set 1,000 times. 1,000 times to fix every single word. Jerry Seinfeld used to take his set, record it, transcribe it, and then take a red pencil and go, that word doesn't need to be there. That word's fucking up the sentence. We're talking about prepositions. We're talking about sentence structure. We're talking about joke structure. We're talking about intent, right? So you are both a writer and a clown at the same time. And that's a very complex and weird thing because it's not poetry. It's not theater. It's not movies. You know what I mean? It's a really specific thing. And the people who treat it general are terrible at it. You have to make it important. And also, everything's important, would be my other advice. Being glib and offhand is hilarious. It really is. But even if you're being glib and offhand, it has to be important to you, otherwise the audience won't care.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, thank you so much. This was awesome. This was such a great conversation. Greg is going to be in Cleveland April 19th, 2025 at KeyBank State Theater for Who's Live Anyway, a stage show that interacts with the crowd with fellow comedians Ron Stiles, Jeff B. Davis, and Joel Murray. I'm very excited about it. Tickets are on sale now at playoutsquare.org. Any last words are?
Oh yeah, you should come see us. We're really funny, and we try to get a standing ovation every night. We're really energetic. We sing, we dance. We lay on the ground. We do vaudeville, so it's pretty accessible. We also swear a little bit, so don't freak out. It's what we like to call PG-13.
Okay, that's good to know. That's really good to know.
Yeah, so it's not G-rated, but you can bring it.
So the question is, do you do the hoedown or do you do the Irish drinking song?
That's up to the audience at the end.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's audience choice.
So that's awesome. I love that. Greg, thank you so much. This was awesome. I can't wait to see the show. I love the show. I've watched it since I was a kid. So
thanks, Mr. Davis.
So
appreciate
it. Take care.
Cheers.